Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Atlanta because I had an insanely good game in this ship and I gotta share it with you guys. This is a very, very fun ship, one of the most enjoyable ships in the game at tier 7. And it's been that way for a really long time, which is really cool to see. Atlanta's been in the game for, well, almost since the beginning, really. One of the more original premium ships in the game. And it's still very, very fun to play. We get set up very nicely on this island. It's a pretty gigantic island, actually, where a ship like Atlanta can really shine. The real problem with this ship, of course, is the shell velocity. The DPM is excellent, and we're a little bit squishy, but, you know, over 30,000 HP isn't too bad as a tier 7. Now, why was I playing tier 7? I usually play tier 10. That's typically how these videos go, unless I'm doing, like, a ship request or something like that. Well, I was trying to play Gdansk as a bit of a I don't see Gdansk very often type of video, much like the Castile one was, trying to explore that a little bit. And I was not able to get any good games. I think Gdansk is still a good ship, real quick, but I was getting matches where everybody was just kind of chilling in their spawn, and then anytime I'd try and get close, well, they'd all focus me because I was the closest guy, right? Makes sense. So we're getting an Atlanta video where I had a ton of fun with this ship. Tier 10 might just not be the play these days. Not always, at least, since it is just so much more passive games. I was really interested and surprised, actually, a little bit by how much people wanted to push in. Keep an eye out for this enemy DD, this hill here, and what he's about to do. People are so aggressive in the mid-tiers. They want to just push up to caps, try and take control of them. It's like the old game that I'm used to playing, where people were trying to contest really powerful islands like this, and, well, essentially play the game, not just sit in spawn, which is really, really cool. So you're probably going to see some more mid-tier videos out of me if this continues, as I had some fun in the Florida, Boise, a few other ships, Leningrad as well. So you might see some of those in the future. But Atlanta is awesome. One of the better premium ships in the game for me, just because it's just pure fun to have this much DPM. Sure, the shell velocity's bad, the range is bad, and you get nuked generally when you get shot at, but there's just something about launching this many shells at the enemy team. My aim's not perfect here. This is my first time playing Atlanta in a long, long time, so you'll see it get better throughout this this game. But look at this enemy DD. He's pushing up, I think, to try and proxy spot me. I was trying to figure it out here. I'm not even trying to shoot the enemy Sharn horse or anything like that. I'm like, what on earth is this guy doing? So let's just pop our Hydro to keep him permanently spotted for our team, and then maybe try and take out some of these battleships. This is a very classic Atlanta gameplay. Push up to an island very close to a cap, use your radar and your DPM to try and contest that and help control the enemy destroyer and win games that way. That's really, really common. In this case, though, less ability to deal with the enemy destroyer now that he's proxy spotting us. So we're forced back, but we're still in a really good spot since the enemy team has a really difficult time arcing their shells over this island. Well, we can get ours over top. And speaking of people playing very, very aggressive, that's an enemy DD that's actually coming from our side of the gap. He was in C for a bit, or I don't know, I wasn't actually paying attention to the minimap. But he was from our side of the map on that gap, so very, very aggressive. Not sure what his plan actually is here, to come after us like this. Maybe he was surprised I was here? I don't know, but I will take it. Maybe that's someone who's a little bit newer to the game, perhaps. I don't know. That can certainly happen at these tiers, where at tier 10, people have a little better feel for the game and, well, tend to play a little more passive, I guess. Double strike there, very nice. Of course, we got a 21-pointer in Halsey on our Atlanta. So gonna take advantage of that, definitely, this game. Now, cheeky little shots around this island here, even with tall islands and people at rather close range, you can still get some damage in. It's a little scary. If you mess up and get spotted, well, you're liable to just get dev struck. And so the instant we get spotted there, he's ready to shoot us. But fortunately, the island does cover us just in time. So up to nearly 70,000 damage is a pretty good start. But notice our team has totally died on the opposite flank. We only have the guys here in this corner of the map to deal with. So we need to start making some plays. Turning around, trying to not really chase the enemy Sharn horse. I'm really looking to get a strong, powerful position in the middle here where I can HE spam over some islands at some of the enemy ships that are going to be pushing into our home cap, as well as maybe trying to defend their own home cap. But the enemy carrier just spots us out, and we're in a bit of a tough spot. Atlanta caught in the middle of a map, very, very tricky position to be in. So we're going to need to use our excellent maneuverability to try and avoid some of this incoming damage. And I wanted to find this carrier. I was really hoping he was in his last known location so I could just kill him really easily, but he's actually playing quite well, positioning himself around these islands, making it very difficult for me to get a line of sight on him to hopefully take him out. The enemy team does start capping our home cap now, so we know we're in a bit of a bad spot now, certainly, as we could get cross-shot here. So I'm going to try and take out this enemy carrier. Our radar runs out, so no more spotting of him. Atlanta should have good AA, and we actually do get quite a few plane kills here, but it's nowhere near the level of AA this ship used to have. Back in the day of RTS carriers, with its unlimited levels of defensive fire. I think it was unlimited defensive fire, right? Now nobody really takes defensive fire since Hydro is just such a better consumable. It's kind of disappointing how the Atlanta AA is. We're going to do fine here, but a lot of what AA is these days is the power is kind of held in the flak bursts, and they spawn randomly. Oh, and by the way, our game was almost ended there. I got very, very, very lucky there that the New Mexico didn't just end our match, since we're on 14,000 HP. One Citadel and like an overpen probably would have killed us at that point. So a little fortunate. Certainly got to have a little luck to have some of these better games, especially when the enemy team is so far ahead, at least at this point. But the AA is fine, right? It's just fine, but it's nowhere near the no-fly zone powerhouse that Atlanta used to be, because it really was that. People playing RTS carriers would literally have to avoid you, otherwise you would take down all of their planes. And of course, back in the day, you also had to deal with plane losses actually mattering a lot more. They matter a bit now to give carrier players, throw carrier players a little bit of a bone there, but not nearly as much. It was kind of painful to deal with in Atlanta, and it was very, very good back in the day. It's still fine, and we're gonna get some plane kills, but there's still gonna be a lot of strikes coming out. So now we have to deal with the enemy ships pushing around this island here. This position I'm in is very bad with the enemy team pushing like this. I was hoping that I could use some of these mid-islands to hopefully deal with the enemy ships as they came back to defend their home cap, or maybe they pushed middle or something like that. This is not a good position. Our initial positioning was great. That island, very strong, very safe. Here, though, it's going to be a little tricky. We're just going to have to hope against this Congo. Even though our DPM is very strong and we should be able to take him out very quickly, it's going to be a little bit tough here. Our Fuso is going to get low from this Congo as well, so he's got a bit of a choice to deal with. Is he going to shoot at us or the Fuso here? I'm going to just rely on myself being a light cruiser and hopefully just going to eat overpens. At this point, there's really not much else I can do, or hope that he's going to shoot the enemy, our friendly Fuso here. Look at this DPM just pouring in, man. It's just so good. Atlanta's fun, man. It's just pure fun. That's really what this ship is. And he does actually go for our Fuso. Takes him out, so fair enough. But again, very fortunate we're not just instantly focused there. Now, we have a Charnorst here to deal with, as well as the enemy Chumfon. I'm definitely mispronouncing that, but it's essentially the Pan-Asian Atlanta with a smoke and worse DPM, no radar. And he could be a problem for us. I'm set up in a really nice position here using free look to make sure my ship is positioned very well in between these salvos. The plane spotting, though, is going to be a bit of a tricky thing for us. And we're going to be left in a very difficult position here. Do we sit behind this island and get farmed down by that enemy cruiser? Or do I try and push out? That's really going to be our dilemma here. By the way, Halsey Confederate, nice little 20% reload buff there. So we now have an Atlanta with a, like, 3-second reload. Which is kind of nuts. So here we're forced to make a choice. I probably could have killed the Charnorst from here and not died, but I needed to get moving, since a very stationary ship is a very easy target for something with Atlanta level guns. And we got fortunate. He's shooting HE, and again, trying that light cruiser gimmick of just go flat broadside in the APL overpen. Trying that. But he had HE, so not a big deal. And we do get behind the island, so we're not going to die to that enemy cruiser. Positioning this ship is really the hard part. I guess the aiming too. Aiming is a bit of the hard part, but certainly positioning. And it'll really teach you. If you're someone who's interested in the Colbert, maybe you've watched John stream it and like how nuts he is at it, and you want to learn light cruisers without being in tier 10, Atlanta is a good option, man. It's really interesting to play as well. New Mexico not shooting at us, very handy. And just look at this DPM. This guy is gonna melt. Yeah, so we also got top grade gunner as well as Halsey Confederate here. And Adrenaline Rush. That's a little bit of too much DPM maybe for tier 7. Almost as much as you can get, theoretically, I think. Unless we're in arms race, I suppose. But that is going to be a Kraken as well. Nuts Atlanta game, ton of fun. Mid-tier, man. Mid-tier is a good time. So if you're kind of getting a little bit annoyed at tier 10, high tier stuff, give mid-tier a go, man. There's some fun to be had. We even managed there to get almost 3k base XP, which is kind of nuts. Very, very, very good Atlanta game. Not all of them will look like that, don't worry. But I had to share that one. Now, as for the build on this ship, don't recommend it if you're newer to playing light cruisers, but playing more of a lighthouse build can work out reasonably well here. Running Halsey with a build like this does net you more damage. Certainly, I would recommend taking Concealment Expert over Top Grade Gunner, for example, if you are playing this ship and you're a little bit newer to it. 10.7 Conceal is not great. Getting down closer to 9 is really, really good for this ship. But taking heavy HE here, we can get that without much penalty since we do have smaller than 149mm guns. So no concealment nerf or to our ship. So that's nice extra damage. Adrenaline Rush, extra damage. Top Grade Gunner, extra damage. IFHE coming in here pretty clutch, actually, against that Colorado and the New Mexico. But in general, against tier 7 and below battleships, they have 26mm of armor. And that allows us to get up to 26mm pen. So all those full pens, all that raw damage coming in is very powerful. Even with Demo Expert here, 4.5% fire chance is decent enough. Typically, you're getting good fire chance anyway on this ship just because you shoot so many shells out. Didn't get the most fire damage in this one, but I think that's cool too. It shows you just how powerful this ship can be, even with not getting the best fire RNG. Still just insanely powerful. But a build like this is a little more damage focused, but if you're newer, I would just swap Concealment for Top Grade. That would be the change. Survivability Expert for the HP over Superintendent here just because we don't have a heal. So I don't really value Superintendent as highly. I want that extra HP to survive a little bit longer, allow me to play a little bit more aggressive. Upgrades look like this, pretty standard. Nothing really much to say there. And then, yeah, you know, taking Hydro, it is still, I didn't know. I haven't played Atlanta in a very long time and have not looked at its defensive fire in a very long time either, just because it's not as useful these days. Also doesn't spread drops out like it used to. Defensive fire was just way more powerful back in the day. So definitely run a Hydro instead. The AA will do fine. You're still going to have to dodge a lot if you're going to want to survive the carrier attacks. Armor-wise, it's just paper, as we can see here. The Citadel is above water, but it's not very well armored. So that's typically going to be a bad thing. But if people aim under your turrets, they're going to just overpen. And even if they hit you, it's a thin enough ship that you're probably going to eat overpens anyway. You can't necessarily rely on that. It's not like the most reliable. It's not as reliable as like a Smolensk, say. But we're still pretty thin. So if you go flat broadside, most of the battleships will just overpen you. Cruisers, though, will smash you, so don't do that against cruisers. But the battleships with bigger guns, probably going to get overpens, and you should be trying to play around islands anyway, so you're not in that situation like we were in the early game, at least in this match. Well, that's going to do it for this Atlanta video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.